Sukurok. And I'll switch to English for this one with Halyna Mokrushyna. Mokrushyna, sorry, I should know by now, but I totally have a non-specialist. Is currently enrolled in the PhD program in Sociology at the University of Ottawa and a part-time professor. Her academic interests include transitional justice, collective memory, ethnic studies, dissent movement in Ukraine. The doctorate project deals with the memory of Stalinist purges in Ukraine.
Okay, thank you all for coming. I'm glad you made it, and I'm glad to see that I see faces of people I know. Donbas, about Donbas identity, and about Donbas vain efforts to be heard by the central government in Kyiv, and about the Donbas response to the stubborn unwillingness of old and new regime in Kyiv to listen to its voice. So I will start with a quote from an article by a Ukrainian philosopher and professor of the Vasil Stefanik University of Ivano-Frankivsk. And this is a quote that reflects very well the essence of what's going on in Donbas. So if we dare to look the facts straight in the face, we will see that the dominant self-identification of the Ukrainian East lies in the system of coordinates: Soviet power, Soviet Union, Russia, Russian Orthodoxy, party of Putin's politics. This phenomenon is not only political, it is a worldview that sees but one way to preserve itself, by identifying itself with Russia. This was written in 2006. So this is an introduction to what I'll be arguing today. So here, this is another quote from another Ukrainian sociologist who studied Donbas. What he's saying that Donbas culture is an industrial culture. And at the top of the industrial hierarchy of that culture is a miner, master of earth entrails, lord of the underworld. During the period of independence, we see this lord losing his majesty and becoming desperate, becoming impoverished. An example is the famous kopanki, which are handmade mines from which they extract coal. So this is I would say, an essence of Donbas culture, the way it's perceived and the way I perceived it when I went to Donetsk a year ago, or a year and several months ago. This is some sociological characteristics of Donetsk region population based on 2001 census. This is the last census that we had in Ukraine. So what we see, we have the total out of 4.3 million population, we have 56% Ukrainians and 38% Russians. And the majority live in the cities. For the mother tongue, we have 3/4 of the population for whom the mother tongue is Russian, and we have 1/4 for whom the mother tongue is Ukrainian. When we go down to the city of Donetsk, we have roughly half of Ukrainians and half of Russians. And for the Russian languages, for the mother tongue, we have even a more large presence of Russian. We have 87% that claim Russian to be their mother tongue, while Ukrainian is 11%. Again, this is the same source of data. This is 2001. This is, now I'll provide some sociological data because this is what we have. This is a hard data that we cannot, that we can trust, because in what's going on in Ukraine in the last, since the erupt of the protest of Maidan, what I found personally very hard, if I trust most of you, was to make sense of what was going on. And with all this information propaganda on both sides, it's very hard to find something, a firm ground on which you can stand. So the sociology provides a very strong ground in that respect. So this is, the first column is based on the research project Donetsk-Lviv, Sociocultural Identities and Practices, which was conducted jointly by Diat's company from Donetsk and a sociological research institute from Lviv. So what they found in that research, that Donbas residents identify themselves as citizens of Ukraine 36%. Then residents of Donbas, 31%, and residents of Donetsk city, 16%. So we see that we have a strong presence of both national identity, but regional identity that is strong as well. In the second column, we have a survey that was done by the Institute of Sociology of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine in October or November of this year. So what they show, again, that we see that the citizens of Ukraine that I mentioned remains almost the same. We have also the strong presence of residents of Donbas, again, residents of Donetsk, and the citizens of the former USSR. These were two separate surveys, that's why they don't exactly correspond, but my point here is that we still have this very strong regional dimension, that Donetsk inhabitants identify themselves very strongly as people of Donetsk region. And this is, anyway, this is from this national survey. Another survey that was done by Kyiv International Institute of Sociology was a question: what is an ideal Ukraine that people of Donetsk would like to see? What they say that it's a state which provides a strong social protection for its citizens, a stable state without conflicts, a powerful state that has leading position in the world, and a democratic state that does not impinge on its citizens' rights. So I have the data for the Western Ukraine as well. We can compare it later if you want. But for now, my point is that what we see is that for the Donetsk people, what is important for them, they see themselves as citizens of Ukraine, but they also have a strong loyalty to their region, and they value the Soviet past. For them, an ideal Ukraine is a welfare state which provides social protection for its citizens, which preserves peace and stability, and is strong on international arena. They are not that much interested in a democratic Ukraine which guarantees civil rights for its citizens. Donbas people want to live in a federalized Ukraine, or in Ukraine where power is decentralized and regions have more autonomy. And this is, you see, these are, again, results from a joint sociological survey by Ilko Kucherev Democratic Initiatives Fund and by Kyiv International Institute of Sociology, conducted in April of 2014. So what we see, again, and it corresponds to the data that Ivan was showing, that they want Donbas to have more power, more power to decide what they want. I mean, more power to the regions, because we have strong support for decentralization, which is 45% and 11% for a federal Ukraine. So this is the data that I don't know if you have seen those data, but what I wanted to show is how now, a year after Euromaidan revolution, we see how Euromaidan was perceived by Donbas. You see this is a table for the whole of Ukraine. So we have conscious fight of citizens for their rights, we have spontaneous revolt, we have coup d'etat orchestrated by the opposition or by the West. And what we see in Donbas, we see over 70% of people perceive Euromaidan, which was, we all know, or the version that we hear in the mass media, that it was a revolution of dignity and for a democratic future for Ukraine, and it was spontaneous movement of Ukrainians who wanted to fight against corruption, against poverty, against corrupted judges and kleptocratic regime. But through Donbas people's eyes, this is what they see. I just wanted to show you, because for 30 seconds, these are two short videos about Berkut. For those of you who don't know who Berkut was, a special force that was standing on Maidan guarding the government buildings. And these are two short videos about how Berkut was Berkut back to their own city. Why? Because they perceived Berkut as forces of order who were protecting, who were keeping the disorder in place. And now, what it looked like this is on March 20th in Donetsk, and this is how it looked in Frankivsk in western Ukraine. Understands Ukrainian people are shouting shame, shame, shame. So this is just to show the difference. So what we have, this is how Donetsk reacted to what they have been following in what was going on in Kyiv. Okay. So what we have, what is clear from all this data is the fact that Donbas did not understand and approve of Euromaidan. Euromaidan destroyed the order and stability that Donbas people value. It was not so much about nationalist, anti-Russian rhetoric of Euromaidan activists that repelled Donbas and prevented it from rallying behind the revolution of dignity. It was about the destructiveness that any revolution brings. So what happens in Donetsk following the seize of power in Kyiv by the former opposition on February 21st? The general background of massive pro-Russian rallies in Kharkiv, Odessa, Dnipropetrovsk, Luhansk on March the 1st, in Donetsk people take it to the streets too. There are clashes between pro-Ukrainian Donetsk people. There, and I will be happy to answer questions. I just now have to focus on the main points. In several towns and cities of southeastern Ukraine, including Kharkiv and Mariupol, the pro-Russian protesters occupy buildings of regional administrations and raise flags of the Russian Federation. In Donetsk, protesters elect the people's governor, the command of the People's Resistance of Donbas, Pavel Gubarev. What are protesters demanding? For them, the Kyiv regime is illegal and illegitimate because it refused to hear the southeast. On February 23rd, just a couple of days in power, the Kyiv regime tried to abolish the language law, which was not which was a clear signal what was the new government about for Donbas. Donbas had no say in deciding its own future. And it was not the first time that Kyiv refused Donbas this right, because the first referendum that they held was in 1994, on March 27, concomitantly with the elections to Verkhovna Rada. They hold the original referendum in which they asked the same questions about federal state system in Ukraine, about the Russian language being recognized as a second official language, and about joining the customs union vis-à-vis the European Union. So what the Donetsk City Council has ceded under the pressure from the protesters, and on the same day, on March 1st, at the extraordinary session of the Donetsk City Council, deputies decide to support the demands formulated by protesters during rallies in Donetsk and recommend the regional council to immediately hold a referendum on the future of Donbas. The City Council also decides to declare Russian a second official language in Donbas and to demand that Donetsk Regional Council adheres to these decisions. The City Council has also declared Russia as Donbas's strategic partner and decreed the creation of the municipal police in order to ensure the tranquility of citizens on the territory of Donetsk and the protection against possible aggression of radical national forces. So we have a series of meetings in Donetsk that finally lead to the protesters seizing and these are pictures from these pro-Russian rallies. They seize, and you can, gives a very good idea of what the rallies were about. So on April the 6th, they take, but I thought I will not go into it because I don't have time to show it. So they seize the building of the Donetsk regional regional administration building. They declare an independent People's Republic of Donetsk and adopt an address to the Russian Federation asking them to take Donbas in, and they also established a date for the referendum, which is to be held on May 11th. On the same day, the acting president of Ukraine, Halyna Mokrushyna, announced that Kyiv has created an anti-crisis center and that it will launch an anti-terrorist campaign against armed separatists in the rebellious regions. The Russian Spring is gaining momentum. On April 13, representatives of the People's Republic of Donetsk, supported in several occasions by locals and the militia, take on the control administrative buildings in several cities across the region. And they install block posts, and around the same time they start forming, they call People's Army. So on May 11th, and this is when they take by assault the building of the Donetsk City Council. This is a Donetsk chapter of Oplot, of an organization that was founded by Yevgeny Zhelin, who is a former he's a retired military, who Alexander Zakharchenko, who is now the head of the People's Republic of Donetsk, he was among those activists who seized the building of the Donetsk City Council. Again, what they're asking Kyiv to hear their demands to hold a referendum. There is no demand for separatism, for any secession. All they are asking, it's a referendum to be held so that they can decide their own future. Okay, so on May 11th, we have this referendum. Again, I can ask questions about the legitimacy of this referendum, because of course it has not been recognized by Ukraine, by international community. Nevertheless, they have a total number of voters in Donetsk region, according to the last data from the Central Electoral Commission of Ukraine, is 3.2 million. So with Ukrainian, they didn't. Of course, they prepared it in a much hurry. So they had the data are not exactly, do not correspond. They don't add to a 100%. However, the question that they asked, it was the one question: do you support the act of the state independence of the People's Republic of Donetsk? And they had the numbers you see on the screen who voted in favor. And again, there are pictures of people voting, and we can discuss further in the QA period how about this referendum. So on November 2nd, Luhansk People's Republic and Donetsk People's Republic hold an election, in which even less voters participate. Why? Because the Central Electoral Commission in Kyiv blocked the access to the electoral lists. So what they used an old list that they had, and this is the result that they obtained. Only basically one quarter of electoral stations were opened. The three parties that were active in the mobilization of people, local Communist Party, Pavel Gubarev's Novorossiya, and the Bloc United Russia, did not pass the registration. Parties that they voted by party lists, right? So these people, Premier Minister Alexander Zakharchenko, was the head of the list of Donetsk Republic. Kaufman, these are the people who were running to be elected as a head of the republic. And Zakharchenko won by a large majority. He represented, he was running as a head of Donetsk party. This party was founded in 2006 in Donetsk as a response to coming to power of the Orange Team. And founders, you see the names there. Currently, Andrei Purgin is the head of the People's Council of the Republic. Frolov is involved in the insurgency. Turkan is deceased. And the main goal of this party was to obtain a special status for Eastern Ukraine and to create on its basis a new entity, a heir to the Soviet Republic of Donetsk, Krivorizhia, that existed for 8 months in 1918. In 2009, it was banned by the court decision as anti-Ukrainian and threatening the territorial integrity of Ukraine under Yanukovych government, which did not approve of these activities. And it was resurrected when Donbas raised in the response to the Euromaidan revolution. This is Andrei Purgin, and this is the flag of the Donetsk Republic. So this is the current, the Republic, People's Donetsk Republic roughly occupies 1/3 of the territory of Donetsk region, and it territory of 8,000 kilometers and population under 2 million people. So what about the political project of this People's Republic of Donetsk? What they want? They want to judge in their Declaration of Independence and in their constitution, they claim that they want to build a state based on social justice and people's power. In the declaration of the creation of the sovereign state of People's Donetsk Republic, it is stated that people are the owners of the land, that the education is free for the secondary and even the higher education is free for people. They also claim that they create the conditions that encourage a free development and protection of forms of property recognized in the Constitution, which prevent the appropriation of the products of work of others and gives a priority to the collective forms of property. The Republic guarantees equal rights and freedoms for all citizens living on its territory, regardless of their nationality, social background, political views, or religious preferences. So it's interesting, but they declared that they will have 2 official languages, Russian and Ukrainian. And they also, their program corresponds to what they have been claiming, in the sense that they are traditionalists who encourage the traditional family union. They are against LGBT, and this is mentioned in their constitution, that they encourage the union between women and men. I have much more to say, but I will be happy to answer all of this in the Q&A period. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.